My name is Mark. This is the Path of Zen podcast. Today, I am with my longtime mentor, the Zennist. And we have him on the show today. Say hello, the Zennist.
Yes, Mark. It's been a long time. What, 17 years?
That's
Something
right.
like that.
The Zennist and I we have known each other for 17 years, spent some time together in person. He's one of my longtime Zen mentors and Buddhist teachers. So today I'm offering him to come on the show and let us learn about the Zenist. So a couple questions. The first one is, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, if you want the normal way of answering that question, I would probably tell you my height, my weight, which, I'm normal, maybe my age and things like that. The background is, as far as Zen is concerned, I began my journey around 1965, and I explain this stuff in my book, which Mark and I are attempting to put it on Kindle. But the important thing this is my fingernail file, by the way. The important thing to understand about me is what it takes to complete the path of Zen. And it takes an extraordinary amount of intuition. That's a term not really discussed that much in academia. And when they do, they fuck it up. Pardon my French, but they really do. Intuition is a leap over, in the case of Zen, language, getting directly to what the Zen masters and Siddhartha pointed to, which is ineffable. You call it pure spirit. You can't put it in the word. Yeah, you can put it in the words, but words are not enough. But you have to have a capacity for intuition. And I generally use two tests to see if people are intuitive. The first one's a simple one, how you make a mountain move 3 feet. And the second one is Hakuin's what is the sound of one hand, which I like, and I consider it a testing koan or a testing example, and if it seems troubling to answer these koans, then you don't know what intuition is. But intuition is, and Zen, it took me many years. I started, about 1965, and I had you could say my Satori or Kensho in 1965. Not 1965, pardon me, 1969. And it was quite an event. You really have to go into retreat and cut yourself off from the matting crowd, I think it's called. That said, that's about the important part of me. Everything else is external. The body that you see is the body of the flesh. It's the 5 skandhas. It's old, 75. It's got 1 foot in the coffin and the other on a banana peel. But what drives it, what oversees it, you could call it the pilot or whatever, is transcendent. And it doesn't crap out when the body does. And we'll get into that later. But for now, that's what it takes. be like in the Marine Corps. You can't be a wimp. You got to have muscles. You got to have a gung ho spirit, all that kind of stuff. It's just not for everybody. And same with Zen. It's really, I hate to tell you, it's an intuitive path.
So speaking of Zen, what, in your opinion, is Zen?
Well, Zen, I think it is very simple. What the scholars will tell you, it's a Japanese word for the Chinese word Shan, which is a character. It's just a phonetic character, but it's meant to represent dhyana in Sanskrit or jhana in Pali. That's the important word, dhyana, or whatever you like to Pali. And as best as it can be translated, it means intuition. As I forget, Mark, do you remember Suffolk's book, Dictionary of Buddhist terms, and I think Chinese, and Sanskrit. Well, anyway, he used the word intuition all the time, and I'm surprised that people have, especially scholars, have not looked through the book, but it's about as accurate as you can get. When, for instance, let's say the Japanese, they'll say zazen. That means sitting, sitting Zen. Well, there's no such thing as sitting intuition, you see. And the Buddha never used the term sitting, sitting dhyana, never used the term. He talked about crossing his legs and sitting upright, but that's not meditation. Meditation in Zen and Buddhism is intuition. You are trying to get to intuition. And you have to go through a long process of mental development. Zen's really an intrapersonal path, not interpersonal, but intrapersonal. You really have to go down the rabbit hole of your own brain. And then you come to a point where, like for me, believe it or not, I was reading a comic book. I was thoroughly, I just thought I was the dumbest person in the world. I lived in solitude and I couldn't figure out what this pure mind was, or the one mind. No way. I just gave up. And then that one night, I looked at this comic book, and I explain in detail in the book. Bam, that was it. So, there's no subject and there's no object, yet there is something. It's like you're on this scaffold and you go into this mysterious place, and you come back on the scaffold and somebody says, "What the hell did you see?" I said, "It's ineffable. I can't explain it. But it's there." You want to try?
Is that the Japanese no thought, or their concept?
Yeah, no thought is excellent. Like in Sanskrit, it'd be achitta. But no thought is really good. It could mean no thought, no meditation. But the idea, and this is what's really ingenious about Zen, and you don't see it in the literature unless you know what you're looking for. Our thoughts are congealed spirit. And as long as you're using congealed spirit to find spirit, which is uncongealed, you're on a fool's errand. You're never going to get any place. Some Zen students attacked a koan almost 100 times before they could answer, before it dawned on them. What you see in a split second, I would say a tenth of a second, is where there's no subject and no object. they go back to the original. It's like in binary, you have a 0 and a 1. But what did the binary come from? It came from a 1, but it's not a 0 and it's not a 1. But when you have the intuition, you know exactly what it is. But you see it also in all these koans. The koans are nothing but a display of that knowledge. They point to it, and very accurately. But for the layperson, or even the person that's been in Zen for a long time, the koans eventually mean nothing. And that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to break your intellectual path, to stop you from trying to see the unborn, the unconditioned, and the uncongealed by taking up congealed thought. You can't do it. So you have to be defeated before you have your victory. And if you're not willing to go down, your plane goes down and crashes and burns, but you live, you're never going to make it. And that's why you go into retreat, because it's when you can't blame your failure on anybody else but yourself. You have all the books you need, you have all the Zen stuff, all the discipline that it takes, and you're on your own, baby.
So
and you have to. Oh, go on.
So yeah. A lot of Zen students would say that if you go into a retreat, that Zazen is Zen, and they would kind of quote Dogen's words. What is your opinion on Zazen as Zen?
I think Zazen's fine for beginners. You have to have something to do. Like I made robes, did Zazen when I lived with the abbot, did all that crap. Made his coffee in the morning, got him a 6-pack of beer. Helped him mow the lawns, worked on Japanese gardens, all that kind of stuff. But I was just a 20-year-old kid. I mean, my brain was possessed by Mara, the evil one, the Buddhist devil, you could say. And I wasn't ready for the big trip yet, the big path. But as I stayed there more and got better at the discipline and that, and looked through a lot of the books that were there, I was the librarian. We had a meager library, let me tell you. I began to see that Zen was about having some kind of direct experience. And then when you saw this mysterious nature or mysterious Buddha nature or your true nature, bam, that was the secret of Zen. That was the key. And that key could open up every koan. Bam, bam, bam. And that was really Zen, not Za, not sitting Zen. It was Zen. It was intuition, pure, plain, and simple.
So you're saying that Zazen is to just get us to Zen.
Right. Actually, in China, in the monasteries, visitors would come. They were monks, of course, but they didn't have assigned duties because they were just visitors. So they would just have them sit. And they had a special term for it and all that, but it just meant, well, let me see, you can't make rice, you can't do this, you can't do that. Why don't you just sit in the corner there for a while? And that's what they did. But sitting is okay for beginners. I mean, if you can't sit still for 40 minutes or even 10 minutes without fidgeting, something's wrong with you. And you need to be someplace else. And, Zen is like boot camp in the military. I don't know if any of you people have been to boot camp, but I was in the Navy, went to boot camp, and, man, they make it rough on you. And you got to do all this piddly ass shit, like washing your clothes, guarding the laundry at night with your Springfield rifle that couldn't shoot anything. You had to know your 10 general orders and just a lot of stuff like that. And then you would always, the chief or somebody or an officer would try to get you to screw up, and you had to be alert. But the thing is, I learned in the military, and it's the same as saying, you have to be aware. You have to be conscientious, and you have to be self-aware of what you're doing. You just can't go in and talk to the abbot and plunk down your teacup and act like a jackass. You've got to be aware of your own being. And that awareness moves more and more inside of you to where you learn to become aware of your thoughts. Now, your thoughts are all going to be Zen's big barrier, because the thoughts are like a steel wall. You cannot penetrate through thought with thought. It's like, shooting a BB gun at a steel door, expecting that it's going to fly open. It's not. So, anyway, that's all I got to say about that.
So the point of all of this Zen and Zazen is to achieve enlightenment. And there's a lot of debate about what is enlightenment.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us what enlightenment is?
Well, you see a lot of people in Soto Zen. They're sitting on their butt in a sesshin for a long period of time, and they're making intuition literal. They're making it a physical practice. Intuition is not a physical practice, but they'll sit there ramrod straight for a long time. Of course, there's breaks in sitting, but Dogen's tradition, for example, really didn't believe in Kinsho or enlightenment per se. That is intuition, and that's important. I could go more and more into Dogen, but I will not, because I think Soto's okay for beginners. But if you really want to get to the heart of Zen, it only goes so far. It stops, and if you're not smart enough to leave the place, then, geez, I don't know what to tell you.
Would you say that Zen and enlightenment are the same thing at this point?
Say what? What? I didn't hear you.
Would you say that Zen and enlightenment then are the same thing?
Yeah, well, Zen is intuition, but you come to an understanding that intuition is the way, but you're not there yet. You have to intuit the absolute. You have to call it the absolute pure mind, absolute spirit, the one mind, the true mind, the Buddha nature, Buddhata, whatever you want. That's what intuition gets you. You have the key to open the door, and boom, there's the great light. Everything the way the Buddha described it, that's the way it is. It's just like it. It's very accurate.
And so, speaking of what the Buddha taught, then why even bother with Zen and Zazen? Why even do any of this?
Well, I think originally in China, Zen or Shan was understood to be intuitive. Like Wei Nong, he saw people sitting in meditation, he'd hit them with his staff. Get your ass up, dumb shit. Like Wei Nong, he got enlightened merely by hearing somebody read from a scripture. That was his initial awakening, but that was also intuition. That's what he accomplished. And, intuition in Zen or Buddhism is like having a baby, and then the baby comes out, or let's say a little baby lion, and it still has to mature. It has to be a big lion or eventually work to be a full Buddha, a Samyak Sambuddha. And there's more in that in the Mahayana, what is called the light of the Mahayana. And nobody talks about that yet. It's, clear as a bell in the Lankavatara Sutra, the light of the Mahayana. And it's with the light of the Mahayana that you're empowered by the Buddhas and can go on to see how really vast the teaching is. It's mind-boggling to say the least, but it happened to me, in 1976. It was just truly mind-blowing. I mean, you might as well talk about your UFO adventure going to some planet in a distant galaxy. That's why I never really discussed it except minimally in the Zennist blog. It's too fantastic, but it happens. And Buddhism presents you with a view of reality that's, man, if you were to lay it out right now, it would be a total turnoff. I mean, life isn't fun. And with Buddhism, that comes home real fast on you. Anyway, I don't want to drive my car off the road.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times people come to Buddhism and Zen with questions of suffering. What do you think are the three biggest mistakes or hindrances that Zen students make?
Well, they're naive for one thing, and they can read all the books they want. That doesn't make them skilled intuitionists or spiritual people. And a lot of them think it's like a college course. You just stay with the old Roshi there, or the old guru, and everything he says will rub off on you, and gosh, you're going to be enlightened. Doesn't work that way. Not in the slightest. If you had a good teacher that knew what he was doing, when he saw that you were ready to go into retreat, call you into his office or his little zendo where he stayed, he'd probably be sitting on his unmade bed and give you a bus ticket and tell you, you got to go into the retreat. You're finished with here. You take all the books you need, go into retreat until you awaken. And by retreat, I mean, can't see anybody else except you and yourself. I mean, you can have somebody come up and bring you food every couple of weeks. That's fine. But you're not there for the interpersonal. You're there for the intrapersonal. You're there to go inside. And I think, I don't know, you remember that movie, The Way of White Clouds or something? It was a movie came out a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I thought it was great because all these Buddhist people that were up in the mountains in retreat, they were on the last stage of their development. It's like they were doing their PhD. Even in old Christianity, Orthodox, the patriarchs, they went into the desert in solitude and all that. And believe me, I forget who it is right offhand, but he says nature only gives her secrets to those who enter nature alone or in solitude. And that's very true. But it's for a lot of people, it's a real turnoff. They feel more comfortable in a group, and just a lot of Zennists that are interested in Zen are just immature. Bala, I think, is Pali for it. Just immature. They're like kids, and they got old dad there, and Mr. Roshi or the abbot or whatever, and he's It's almost it reminds me of an outpatient clinic. They're there because they got psychological problems, and most of them, they're just very immature. I don't care if they have a goddamn college degree. That doesn't mean you're mature. It just means you're a good dog and you can jump through the hoops. That's all it means. Hey, you're probably good at some jobs, but the jobs I did back in the 60s, they were working at canneries. Are you kidding? Picking fruit. I mean, that's the stuff I did. It was hard work, but you had to be kind of tough too. And that's what's lacking today. People are just so mamby-pamby. I mean, just wimps. I mean, I hate to say it. Just whining and, oh, I feel as the master has betrayed me. Who cares? Get out of here. Get it. Go into reality. You can go into your life and do all the things you want. Eventually, have the house, the kids, the car, the dogs. Yes, but in the end, you're going to get old. Like me, I'm 75. You're going to face death, and all your life did nothing to help you face that unless you studied Buddhism with your heart and soul.
I've been watching
I'm
some
telling you.
videos of the Theravadan Thai monk retreats, and they actually treat them like like soldiers. They make them line up. They make them march
Yeah,
in
it's like boot
unison.
camp. Yeah,
They put them through a rigor. They don't give them anything. They take away everything. They shave their head. They give them their
yeah.
robe and their bowl, and
Sounds like
their
the
little mud
military.
padded mat to sleep on, and they are told this is it. There is nothing more. You don't get your cell phone. You don't get your TV. You don't get even a mattress to sleep on. And a lot of people, when I show them these videos, they wince away from it. For me, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. But everybody else is like, yeah, I'm okay, I'm good, I don't have to go. So, do you think that we were to, if Zen was to be more like a boot camp, that actually might help?
Well, I think originally I think it was for something like 53 days. I know or I knew I think they're all dead. Yeah. But I knew people that went to China and went through the traditional, you could say, boot camp. But in China, you go through the monastery training, which is really brutal for like 53 days. And only when you pass that, then you go and seek a Zen teacher. But you can't seek a Zen teacher or have a Zen teacher unless you've gone through the monastic system, or you call it the boot camp. Let's call it what it is boot camp. And the Chinese, I mean, they got paddles and everything. And I don't know if they still do it, but you get whacked and everything else. So it's not the Westerners' idea of heaven. It really is like military boot camp. It's like more like the Marine Corps. Uh,
A Japanese Zen initiate, they go through quite the ordeal of having to walk to the training temple, begging for
yeah,
entrance, sitting up to 3 days in the lobby just waiting to be accepted. And then when they are accepted, given very little, and they're only given leftovers, they have to sit and prove themselves another 5 days of sitting and facing a wall. And then, even after all of that, the rigors of the temple of the training monastery life can be quite brutal, with 4:30 in the morning wake up times. Every ceremony is intricate in detail. You get scolded for screwing up. Then, of course, right after all that, they work you until lunchtime. Then you do more meditation and more prayers, and then they work you again until dinner time, and then you do more meditation and prayers and eat. Finally, at the end of all that, you are forced to go in front of the teacher, where they demand you to answer the koan question or explain why you haven't achieved enlightenment.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a backdoor to confession, but, say, well, I've been thinking about this beautiful girl I left in high school to come here, or I really would like some ice cream or something. That's kind of what goes on. Zen has this kind of romantic side to it. We've seen Asian movies and we look at them through a romantic lens. Oh, that would be. They don't tell you all the hard part. It's just like in boot camp or becoming a Navy SEAL or something like that. It's brutal. And same with most of the militaries, all basic training, like for the Legionnaire, is rough. They still hit you in the Foreign Legion, I understand. In the old Marine Corps, they used to whack you. But today, people are not interested in that. They're not tough. Because why do you have to be tough? Because you have to face yourself. It takes a lot of courage to face yourself when you're in retreat. Got nobody to blame for your bullshit except yourself. And the idea to come to no thought is you have to break your ties with trying to use thought, the intellect, to uncork Zen, to get the genie out of the bottle. But that thought, that congealed spirit, is Mumon's barrier too. It will not let you pass. You cannot penetrate thought with thought. You've come to a cul-de-sac. You have your car at the end of the road. You're going to have to get out of the damn car. Get on your feet. And Zen is what drives you there. And that's when you get to the end, the real path of Zen. It's rough. It's really, really rough. And of course, I'm sure there are people that will tell you otherwise and blah, blah, blah. Good, let them. But I guarantee you, they don't understand the first thing about Zen. Where is Zen coming from? They can't see it. But yet it animates their very body. It's moving my hands right now, but they can't see it. But a Zen student who has seen the true mind or the one mind or spirit turns around and he sees that ineffable, silent, but nevertheless real light. And it's there. But there's no subject and there's no object. Every time you look at it, the subject and the object disappear. It's like, like two circles overlapping, but there's actually only one circle. It's kind of, how would you say, an optical illusion that there's this duality, this subject and object, the observer and the observed. And one day those two circles, boom, they come together. That's the one spirit or one mind. And that is with you for eternity. That's what allows you to enter into this imaginal world, and it is, go through the suffering in this hideous body of pain when you get older, and come out the other side, like Christ did after he was crucified. But of course, the key to Christianity, or the mystery of that, is you can't crucify spirit. You can only crucify the flesh. And Christ is really like the Buddha. He is really an embodiment of spirit. He is spirit, pure spirit, before it is congealed into flesh, before it's congealed into thought, before it turns into a concept or an idea, some little thing, some little particulate, a muon maybe, or a quark. Yeah. Sorry. That's all. That's all. That's all congealed spirit. So anyway, I don't want to get off track. I think I already did drove my car off the road again. But anyway, uh, Zen, you have to have the boot camp at least to learn what it is going to take to get through to the other end, to complete the path. And you have to be humble because when you're on your own, you're going to have an ally within you. It's going to say, no, that's not it. Nope, you didn't get it. Nope, you're deceiving yourself. Nope, try it again. And that dude never leaves, except one night when let's say those two circles of subject and object come together. And we'll talk about that later. That's the whole concept of consciousness in Buddhism, or Vijnana. Vijnana is spelled Vijnana. It really means literally, V means in two parts, jnana, or jhana, however you want to pronounce it in English, means knowing. So it's knowing in two parts. That is a subject-object knowing. Dual knowing, you can call it. I know people that like to use the word dual, but really, this dual, we are always living in duality, and you never get out of it until those two circles come together, until the zero and the one merge into the original one. And the only way you get there is by intuition. The only way you get to intuition is you have to give up. You could say it the path of imagination or the intellect. In other words, the path to Zen is not analytical. It's fine for scholars because they're translating. They're trying to give you a general outline of what Zen or Buddhism is about. But as far as having seen what Siddhartha saw under the Bodhi tree, they haven't done it. But you can do it. It's within you to do. But until you get there and have the direct intuition, you do not have the Buddha nature. That's what the Buddha said in the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. But that's a whole other thing we'll get into later on.
All right. Well, we've been at this for about 40 minutes, and
Whoa,
I think
that's pretty good. I had no idea.
Pretty good for our first interview. We will definitely have the Zennist on again, hopefully for the years and many years to come.
Yeah, if I don't slip in that banana peel and fall in the coffin.
I think we're all one foot on the banana peel these days. All right. Well, thank you very much for being with us, and we will hopefully pray for you to return again.
My pleasure. I enjoyed it, and I'm sorry for being a blabbermouth and kind of letting the secret of Zen out of the bag.
That's okay. I think today a lot of students want to hear these secrets and then have a glimpse of the insight of how to get there. All right, this is Mark, and thank you again for listening to the Path of Zen podcast. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.